How's it going, everyone? So for today's video, I went on Instagram and asked my followers to give me a list of things that I'm going to give you my opinion on, and I'm going to rate them if they're either underrated or overrated. The list ranges from exercise, training methods, stuff to do with nutrition, people in the fitness industry, just anything and everything. And I don't really think the video needs much more explaining, so we're going to get straight into it. And the first thing on the list is deadlifts. So deadlifts are severely underrated. And if you asked me this question a few years ago, I would have probably said they were exactly where they needed to be, right in the middle. And if anything, I would maybe say that it was actually heading towards overrated, because they were like the real trendy exercise to do for a while, and people were just like trying to deadlift as much as possible. Whereas in the last few years now, there's been a kind of a shift where people are kind of trying to get away from just the traditional normal deadlift and trying to not overcomplicate it as such, but just kind of not do a normal deadlift, and whether it be trap bar deadlift or straight leg deadlift or whatever it may be. And then you kind of get the bodybuilding brigade that don't think deadlifts are going to build muscle in your back and you're better doing D-handle rows and stuff like that, which is just completely ridiculous. Deadlifts are one of the best full body exercises you can do in the gym, period. And the fact that there's kind of been a shift away to think that there's a lot better alternatives in them in most cases is just simply wrong. The next one is intermittent fasting, and this is definitely going in the overrated category. It's not going to increase your testosterone, and it's not going to make you lose weight easier. The way that intermittent fasting works is it reduces your window of eating, which basically means it's going to restrict how many calories you can actually eat, which is going to put you in a deficit. But if you're eating the same amount of calories in that window as you would if you were spread out the full day, your weight loss or gain is just going to be the exact same. But if it suits you better and it makes you feel better and it works for you, by all means go ahead. But there's not some special chemical reaction in your body that's happening by intermittent fasting. The next one is Noel Diesel, and he's not the kind of type of influencer I particularly follow, and I don't know loads about him, but from what I do see from him, it seems to be quite good stuff, I suppose, and he seems quite honest, so I suppose he's kind of got to go in the underrated category by default. Next on the list is hip thrusts. So I would actually put these in the underrated category. And again, quite similar to deadlifts, where they were the go-to thing a few years ago for girls trying to get the big bums, and I feel like now the kind of novelty of them has wore off a little bit, and they're still done quite regularly, but it's not quite the focal point of most people's workouts like they used to be. And I think that's fine, and that's probably where they should be, but I do think there is quite a lot of benefit of doing hip thrusts, and I think it's probably an underrated exercise more so for kind of like men and people trying to get strong, because it is a great glute and hamstring exercise, and I personally do them, I do them heavy, and it has quite a good crossover effect on my squats and deadlifts, so I would definitely say it goes in the underrated category. So the next 2 points were kind of asked in a winner, but for the purposes of this video I've kind of split them into 2 different points. So the first one is creatine. So personally, I do think creatine is pretty overrated. I do tell all my clients there isn't really a reason for you not to take it, because it does work and it is cheap. However, I've heard some people say that they take creatine and they grow so much and their strength just flies up. And personally, I've never had that reaction from creatine, so for me, it definitely goes in the overrated category, but I still do think it's worth taking, and it will give you a little benefit, but don't expect it to be like you go to bed one night and then the next morning you wake up like twice the size. And the point that was attached to it is lifting as a teenager, and I definitely think that's underrated. I don't think you need to start when you're too young. Like, I kind of started learning the basics when I was 14, and I think anywhere kind of from that age, just learning the pure basics, learning technique, starting to load the body, I think that's totally okay, and it's definitely not going to stunt any growth. But I just wouldn't worry about going absolutely hell for leather when you're young and at that age, because if you want to have a long kind of career, for lack of a better word, you're going to have like 20, 30, 40 years to go, so, and you don't want to try and do too much too soon. And you can still get stronger and start to kind of build muscle, but you definitely always want to kind of keep yourself reserved a little bit when you're training at that age. Learn the basics and the fundamentals, and that's going to give you a solid base to build an even higher peak as you get older. Ice baths. So, definitely overrated. Ice baths have been a thing for years, but I feel like it was during lockdown where people were running out of stuff to do, so started doing all the cold plunges and all the ice baths and stuff like that became like fashionable. And yeah, it's one of these things where if it makes you feel good and it works for you, fantastic, great, good for you. But in terms of the actual kind of evidence, there's not really massive amounts to support the ice baths is going to do wonders for you. But again, if it works for you, great, keep doing it. There's definitely some merit to it, but it's not some super duper healing anti-inflammatory muscle building thing that I think some people kind of think in their head it is. Subscribing to me on YouTube. So that definitely is the most underrated thing in the world. And if you're not subscribed to me, you need to do it. I'm on a full-on charge to 100 subscribers, and imagine how cool it would be when I'm at like 100 million subscribers and you're going to be like, oh, I followed him when he didn't even have 100 followers yet. And that would be pretty cool, so you should definitely subscribe to me now so you can have that on your CV and keep learning all things training and fitness related from someone who knows what they're talking about. Next one is Coach Greg, and I definitely think he is underrated. So I've personally watched a lot of Coach Greg and learned a lot from watching him. And similar to how you guys should be subscribing to me just before I blow up, I just started watching him before he blew up. He's got a lot of experience and valuable information under his belt, and I think he is very good at explaining things in simple terms. But the reason I do think he's underrated and not kind of where he should be in the middle for somebody off his kind of standing professional bodybuilder, powerlifter, all that stuff, is because he is quite outspoken and he does like to come at a lot of people and have these kind of back and forths, and some of his views, they're not like out there, but he does kind of say a lot of controversial stuff, and I think that's why a lot of people kind of turn against him a wee bit. And he's not quite viewed as the authority as a lot of his kind of experience wants. So I definitely put him near the top of the list underneath me when it comes to watching and learning from people on YouTube. Cardio for fat loss. So I would say this is underrated as well. If you are trying to lose weight and you're not doing some form of cardio, and it doesn't even be hard mental cardio, it can just be your daily steps or some kind of longer form cycling or something at a kind of steady, moderate pace. I think you're missing a big trick because there is only so much calories you can restrict yourself to before you just feel like hungry all the time and feel terrible because of it. Whereas you add a little bit cardio in and it's actually going to allow you to eat more, which is just going to make you feel better while kind of staying at the same calorie balance. Raspberry ketones. So anything with the word ketone on it is definitely going to be overrated. Raspberries are a good healthy fruit to eat, so just worry about eating them. Don't worry about whatever shite you've heard about ketones. This is obviously all linked to a keto diet, and again, one of these things, if it works for you, great, but personally it's not what I suggest you do, and there's not kind of a lot of evidence to support that is a good diet if you are trying to kind of build muscle. But if it works for you, great, just do it. Bench press. So this is quite a difficult one, to be honest with you, and I'm going to give a bit of a cop-out answer, and I'm going to say it's underrated and overrated in two kind of different ways. So the way it's underrated, I believe, is, again, similar to the deadlift, used to be the staple of people's chest training. Now it's cables and machines and this and that. For me personally, bench press, one of the best exercises you can do to build muscle for your chest, and all that other stuff's great, but the foundation probably should be a barbell bench. Now, where I actually think bench press is overrated is as a strength exercise. I could probably do a whole video on this, but I personally don't believe that bench press is the best test of strength because a lot of it's down to levers, and that's why you can get people that are weak as piss at everything else in the gym but have got big massive benches. And likewise, there are people, and I'm not naming any names here, but you do get people who are pretty strong at everything else in the gym, but because they've just got all the wrong levers for bench press, they're like really weak at it. And the way that I'm actually proved right with this is they are now starting to kind of tinker and change with the powerlifting rules, because the arching and everything that comes with bench press is just getting absolutely ridiculous. So to summarise, bench press underrated for building muscle, overrated for strength. On to the last few, and the next one is training 7 days a week in the gym. So I would say this is definitely overrated. You don't need to train 7 days a week in the gym. The amount of days you train in the gym has got to be the amount that you can stick to and give high effort consistently. If you train 7 days a week in the gym, there's a good chance that because you're not resting, you're not going to be able to push yourself properly, and you're just not going to get as good results doing that. If you enjoy training in the gym 7 days a week, that's great, and there's definitely merit to that, but you've got to be a bit more clever in your programming and just make sure that you're not overdoing it. Personally, for me, I train 6 days a week in the gym most weeks, and that's because I've trained for that long and I've done that much training that 1 day's rest is good enough for me to fully recover and then go again. And the last one is prime energy, prime hydration. So I'm one of the lucky people in Scotland that has actually managed to try prime on 3 different occasions, because I've just been lucky when the supermarkets had a restock when I went in, and it's definitely overrated. And again, it's not going to taste too much different to your kind of other sugary energy drinks, but it's just got less sugar in it. It's definitely not worth spending a tenner a bottle on, but you know what, it tastes alright, it's pretty decent. If there wasn't so much hype around it, I'm sure I'd probably enjoy it more, but it's just that kind of slightly different taste in like sports drink compared to like Lucozade, Powerade, all that kind of stuff. And I know they market it as this low sugar, low calorie, better alternative, but when you're training, you are needing, energy to help fuel you. That's the whole point of having a hydration drink during your training. So that is probably the one time there having a little bit extra sugar in your drink is going to help you. So again, just be careful not falling for just the marketing, because it's not exactly as good as they kind of make it out to be. And that's my list there of the kind of first round of over and underrated. If you like this video, leave it a like, and if there was enough likes and enough people watched it, I'll be sure to do it again. If you want to ask a question for next time, make sure to follow me on Instagram. All the information on my social media is in the description below, as is my coaching inquiry form, which if you are looking for an online coach to get you bigger, stronger, faster, leaner, whatever it may be, I've got you covered. So please feel free to either drop me a message on Instagram or just fill that inquiry form out. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm posting regularly on here now, so you do not want to miss any videos. You can even turn the notification bell on as well. And then other than that, I will see you in the next video.